How's it going, my good friends? I miss all of you, and I'm really excited about today's episode. We're going to be talking about this 4 murders allegedly by Bryan Kohberger, and kind of like, did he kill these people? How did he do it? And most importantly, all the legal proceedings and how the law kind of is going to address this case. And of course, the dad jokes at the very end. In fact, the only notes I have here on my little yellow pad is to remember the dad jokes. I've been getting so many comments, and people are starting to send me dad jokes and stuff. I love it. I can't believe it. All right. Mateo's cringing over there.
This is the worst.
So in the early morning of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were killed. They were stabbed in their home. And actually, one of them wasn't a resident. He was just visiting his girlfriend. But anyway, so 4 Idaho students were stabbed to death in the middle of the night. And it made, international news. It was, the alleged killer was on the loose for a while because he wasn't arrested until about almost 2 months later. It's a university, and it's right next to Washington State University, which is only about 8 miles away. So it was a big deal. Do you remember, Mateo, right? You remember, yeah? I did, just for the heck of it, I did look it up. 4 people were also killed in the city of Chicago that exact same day. No one, but this is the difference, I think. This is a university. The killer was on the loose. Also, nothing like this happened in this city in Idaho. A murder since 2015. All right. So from 2015 till November 13th, so almost at the end of 2022, in Chicago, a murder didn't happen since like the day before, November 12th, So yeah, okay. So a little historical perspective. Okay. So now let's get to it. The night of the murders, of these 4 university students, there was Madison, Jana, Kaylee, and Ethan. There's the names. And Kaylee and Ethan, his boyfriend, girlfriend, they were out the night before until about 1:45 a.m. They were going to different parties, going to different clubs or bars, and they were at a frat party at one point. And they got home at 1:45 a.m. and then shortly after went to sleep. Now, the other 2 that were killed, Kaylee and Jana, they were like best friends. And it's a little different with them. They were out that night, the night of, until about 2 a.m. And there was like footage of them at a food truck, it was like, food, like a food truck. And it was like a mac and cheese food truck of all things. And there was footage of that because the mac and cheese truck kind of like records or something. And then they got home. They took a ride home with a guy that he did like, one of the door or Lyft and Uber or whatever. But he was a friend of theirs, or he knew them or something. So they called him and he dropped them home. That's important because the police originally thought it was like an official, like, through the app or something, but it wasn't. They got home at 2 a.m. That driver, just dropped them home and left. And he was interviewed and he said everything like how I took them home, what they were doing, how they were like, what they said, how they called me, all the text messages. He gave them the police's phone, all that jazz. Now, they were up, however, for a few hours. This is Kaylee and Jana. They were up for a few hours after they got home. And Kaylee ordered, there were 2 best friends. Jana ordered DoorDash at 4 a.m. Have you ever ordered food at 4 a.m.? No way. Really? What? I've never done that before. I just go to the kitchen and you know what I'm saying? I did not know people order food at 4 a.m. Anyway, so she ordered food at 4 a.m. The reason why obviously that's important is kind of like putting the timeline together. So she ordered food that got there at 4 a.m. On 4:12 a.m., her last known communication or activity was that she was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. Then, the horrible thing happens, okay? Somebody enters the house and there were these four, and there was also two roommates, and it was kind of it's a 3-bedroom house. Two roommates at the first floor, two at the second floor, and two in the third floor. The two in the first floor were unharmed, and somebody enters the house and stabs all four people to death in their sleep. It was really, really gruesome too. The police records show that nobody was gagged, nobody was like tied up or anything. There was not any sort of fight. You know, they did say maybe one person kind of woke up and tried to hit him back or something, but nothing, nothing like severe, and obviously nothing that worked for the poor folks. So 4 of them died, and now we have the investigation, right? Like, who the fudge did this? Like, who would do such a thing? And what my goal is here is to kind of explain how the law works and how the police have to investigate this and what they do and how they have to try to come up with everything. So the 911 was not called until noon that day because all these people were out so late, right? They woke up late and then they noticed their roommates, sadly were not awake and not responsive. All right. So 911 wasn't called till noon. So then when the police come, they start interviewing the roommates. And here's where, things start, the clues, so to speak, start coming in. One of the roommates said that around 4:20 a.m., she had heard something, and then she got out of her room at 4:20 a.m., and then she saw this guy wearing a dark mask and kind of like an athletic build, leaving the house very quietly. And she froze, like she got so scared, like she didn't know who this guy was and who, how he left. Like she kind of saw him leaving, and she wasn't even sure if he saw her or not. But he he went through these sliding doors and like left the house, and she was like frozen. And what she did is then she went back to sleep. I don't know. She said she went in, she locked her doors, she was scared, and then she went back to sleep. That's kind of a, right? Like it's, people always ask, why didn't she call 911? Why didn't she go see, what was going on with the other roommates? Like, why would, like if I saw somebody in the house that wasn't supposed to be there, I probably wouldn't just freeze and go to sleep. At least I don't think I would do that. But anyway, that's what happened. Maybe she thought he was, one of the friends of the other people, but she was very spooked. She told the police, they said, well, what did he look like? And she gave a description. And now that description is going to be extremely important. She said it was a guy, he was white, he had an athletic build. He wasn't like super muscular, but he had an athletic build. And he had bushy eyebrows. And that was all they were able to get from her. And then they found, through, how these poor 4 people died were all stabbings from a military grade knife, like a really, really, big deal knife type of thing. They did not find that knife at all. Like they obviously searched the house, searched nearby. They did not find the knife. They did find the sheath to the knife, the little cover that the knife can go to, that you can put your knife in. They found that. So whoever did this left that there by accident or on purpose. Who knows? Okay, the bottom line is they found it. And then when they examined that, they did find a little bit of blood that did not belong to any of the 4 victims. And so what they did is, guess what they did? What police do a lot of times is they do a genealogy test. What is that? That like 23andMe or, did you ever do that? No, I didn't do it either. My brother did though. And maybe he was trying to I'm not his brother. No, just kidding. Okay. So they did one of those. And the only thing that it detected was, there was one person that said, oh, whoever's blood this is could be related to this other person. And that person had this last name of Kohberger, which is, very popular. But they narrowed it down to which person, but not it's really weird. They didn't narrow down who the person was, but they narrowed because a lot of people, when they donate their blood or whatever it is to do a DNA genealogy, they'll be in some sort of database if they agree to be in that database. And so this guy was. And so they realized this blood is related, to this other blood. Okay. Which is pretty cool. I mean, that's a cool science to get into. I like that science. It's interesting. So that's a piece of evidence that could be helpful. And then the police went, to all the neighbors, and they got some footage, like camera footage from like nearby homes. And they got footage from like the university. They got footage from Washington State University, which was nearby. And I mean, they just collected everything they could, right? And they did find there was one car. It was a white car that they suspected to be a Hyundai Elantra, anywhere from like 2011. Originally, they said maybe 2011 to 2013, or maybe 2016. They kind of look alike. Someone told me Hyundai, the South Korean car, it's like saying Sunday, but Hyundai. Is that right? Hyundai Elantra? I don't know either. So it was a Hyundai Elantra. So that's what it was, that they could kind of pick out. They weren't able to make the license plate. But that car drove near the house, cameras found. The murder, they kind of pinpointed, happened between like around 4:15 a.m. to 4:20 a.m. Give or take a few minutes on either side, so to speak. And they found that this particular car was noticeable in a few videos. And most importantly, at 4:20 a.m. from a neighbor's camera, that car like sped away. So earlier, like before the murders, that car was kind of driving around. And then after, it like sped away. And then what they did is they were getting footage from everywhere, right? They got footage from Washington State University, which was about 8 miles, or is about 8 miles from Moscow, Idaho. That's the city, Moscow, Idaho. The name Moscow, Idaho is kind of funny. That city got its name like in the late 1800s. They were kind of debating what to call it, and the one guy that had the final say or something just called it Moscow, but not after Moscow, Russia. After Moscow, Pennsylvania, which was where he was born, but Moscow, Pennsylvania was named after Moscow, Russia. Anyway, okay. So nonetheless, I'm very good at useless information like that. That's like my favorite. That's my hobby, is useless information.
I don't even know my real name. I'm the Lizard King.
Okay. So then, when they got the footage from Washington State University, all these different video cameras, they noticed what they thought was the same car, this white Elantra, driving around like around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., coming back like after 4:20 a.m., and the same white Elantra. So now they're thinking, it looks like the suspect probably drove this white Elantra. And then what they did is they went to the university, the Washington State University police, and they said, can we get records from you or the university to show who registered a white Hyundai Elantra? Because the students have to register their cars or whatever. So, why not? They just tried that. They were trying everything. And to my surprise, only one person, they found one registered car to Hyundai Elantra. And that person's last name, his first and last name is Bryan Kohberger. Remember what I said about the genealogy? That the one tiny piece of blood on the sheath was related to somebody, that was a Kohberger. And when they found that piece of evidence, they tied it they said, oh, wow, this guy has a white Elantra that fits this description. And it's a 2015 white Elantra with Pennsylvania plates, because he's from Pennsylvania, but he was going to school in Washington. And his blood was on the sheath of the knife, or the sheath of a knife that they believe was the knife that killed these 4 people. And his blood is related to this other guy, named with the same last name. So that was what we like to call good evidence, right? I mean, that's some evidence, but certainly not enough, I think, to say that he killed them, So now, and as they're running by my lawyer here, I'm trying to kind of, the police have to get all this evidence, and they're kind of secretive about it. And some things they'll say in case they get more information, or some things they'll say incorrectly to try to get different information, whatever. And they have to like build their case, because before they can arrest him, they have to get an arrest warrant, and they have to prove that they have enough to arrest him and to charge him with murder. So now let me explain kind of like what happens after that. Like it definitely does not end there. What they then did was they called Pennsylvania police, and the Pennsylvania police, they asked, hey, can you like get us information or go to the guy's house and blah, blah, blah. And the Pennsylvania State Police got garbage from his parents' house, and they were able to get some DNA of his dad, and they were able to show, that the DNA from the dad was definitely related to the DNA from the sheath, and it was a father-son relation, they said there is the odds that they are definitely dad and son. The odds of them not being dad and son was 1 in a centillion, which is a lot of, it's like a million billions or something crazy like that. Okay. So that's a big number, right? So most likely, right? This was, this is the kid, that's the dad. So the dad, forgive me, the dad was definitely the dad of the guy whose blood was on the sheath. Okay? And that same person is this dude that has the white Elantra. So now they are definitely building more evidence. And I want to go over one thing really quick. It's the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, which states that there shall be no unreasonable searches and seizures. When they got the garbage of the dad's house, the mom and dad's house, they didn't have a warrant, and there has been Supreme Court precedent that says that when someone throws something away, then there's no longer the police can search it without a warrant because it's not invasive. It's something they threw out, so it's okay for the police to search that without a warrant. They can't go into somebody's house without a warrant because that's more invasive, and you're entitled to that privacy. So the only way they can go into someone's house would be if the person just voluntarily lets them go in, or if there is a warrant to search the house. Okay, so they found that evidence, and now, there is more. He ends up driving from Washington to Pennsylvania with his dad, and then what they did is remember the murders happened in Idaho. They were working with the Pennsylvania police, and the Pennsylvania police kind of after he went to home, the suspect at this point, they followed him, and they had like undercover cops and watching the house like nonstop, and they did notice some peculiar things. He at a couple of times he threw away garbage in the neighbor's house. You ever do that? Zeke, you ever do that? Throw garbage in the neighbor's? Maybe if I'm going on a long walk and I like have a water bottle, I might throw the water bottle on some random person's house. Maybe. I don't like doing that, and that's a big, big maybe. But one time I think I had too much garbage and I threw it away in the neighbor's house, but a little bit. Oh, yeah. So they noticed him doing that. They also noticed that he cleaned the heck out of his car. Which, whatever. It's an old Elantra. Who the heck cleans those? No, I'm just kidding. But he cleaned the heck out of that car. And then they noticed that on a lot of occasions he would walk around outside with gloves on. But it wasn't like winter gloves. It was like the surgical gloves or something. And he would throw some of those away. Obviously, so this is kind of, potentially more evidence to show that he's trying to hide what he did, right? They also, now then they have his phone number, and from different records, like he signed on with the school, so they knew his phone number. And then they knew it was an AT&T phone number. And then they went to AT&T and said, hey, can we get all of the times, like where the phone has pinged? When you travel around, the phones ping everywhere. AT&T wouldn't give it to them unless they went and got a warrant. So they got a warrant. It drives police crazy. Like a lot of times, like some police will say, "Hey, can you open this, suspect's iPad for us? Like we have the iPad, but it's locked. We don't have the code to get in." And like Apple will say, "Nope, we're not going to do it. Get a warrant, and if a court makes us do it, and we'll fight it." And I don't know, for better or worse, that's what they do. Because AT&T could have voluntarily given them that information, but they didn't. They said, "Go get a warrant." Police got a warrant, and they did get his particular cell phone was pinging, meaning like when you drive around, like your phone hits different cell towers, and that's how you get calls and stuff. It was pinging all over the place that night, meaning he was driving around Washington State. He was Washington State University. He was driving to, where the home is. He was driving around there, and he was doing this like in 2 hours before the murders, 1 hour before the murders, and then right after the murders, right? That's, pretty bad evidence, right? You would think, just for the heck of it, why the heck didn't he leave his phone at home? I know most people I know can't even go to the bathroom without their phone. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it makes sense. If you're going to go kill 4 people, might as well take your phone if you can't go to the bathroom without it. No. I don't know. That was really effed up that he would do that. And a lot of, whatever, that is what it is. I think he thought, or if it was him, that he could outsmart everyone. So anyway, so he takes his phone everywhere, and they have all of these pingings from everything, okay? And now comes the big ticket items in terms of what the heck they're going to do. All right. That is still not enough evidence, I would say. Maybe it's enough evidence. Maybe it's not, because it's tough. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And then he later said, like his lawyers later said something like, "Oh yeah, he just likes to drive around a lot at night alone." He just likes driving around. Sometimes I like driving around too, especially if the kids are driving me crazy. You know what I'm saying? But this guy, anyway, okay, whatever. That's what they said. But now comes the big one. They want to search his car, and they want to search his parents' house, and they want to search his apartment on campus. And these things, unlike the garbage, they can't. This is people have constitutional rights, and some of those constitutional rights are, the Fourth Amendment, which is that you can't, it protects us against unreasonable searches and seizures, meaning that if they're going to search his house and his parents' house and take, search his car, they have to convince a judge that there is probable cause to search those things. And it's kind of like a balancing test. Like the more invasive the search, then the more probable cause that they have to get. All right. And this is where, the lawyers and the prosecutor comes in and stuff like that. By the way, I thought this was kind of funny. Here's a picture of the prosecutor. Okay, one of the prosecutors. I looked at this, I'm like, oh my God, now I know what Santa Claus does from December 26th until December 23rd. He's a prosecutor in Idaho. That's what he does. I was like, it makes sense. He could see who's on the naughty list by being a prosecutor, right? Does that count as a dad joke? Okay, so here's what we have to do. The prosecutors have to be very careful about this. So on December 29, so this is about a month and a half later, the prosecutors apply for a search warrant. And now in their application for the search warrant, they have to give, like I said, they have to convince a judge that there's probable cause to search everything. And what they outline with the judge, like in this one declaration by a police officer, and this particular police officer is saying, I work for the Idaho State Police, and he kind of describes the whole situation, what happened that night and how it happened. And then he describes the prosecutor has to convince the judge that there's probable cause to search this guy's homes. And he's saying, one thing that I didn't mention earlier is that there was also like a shoe print in the area, and that shoe print matched a Vans type shoe, or the kind of oval shaped, and that's the kind of shoes that he wears a lot of times. So, they want a little extra evidence. And then they explain to the judge how they have all these cameras, all this footage of this white Elantra that's driving everywhere, and that how they tied it back to this guy. And then how they got the cell phone evidence. They even showed to the judge like the route that he was taking. They explained to the judge, in college he was a psychology major and a forensics major, and now he's in grad school as a criminology student. Which, you think does that make a difference? A little bit. It's kind of weak evidence, but it's an evidence. It's just like, what my evidence professor at law school used to say, evidence is a brick. And one piece of evidence is just one brick, but you have to have a lot of bricks to get the wall, So this is, I'm going through what the bricks of information is. And then the big one that they have here is that they traced, they figured his phone number out, and then they got from the AT&T all those different pings from all the different towers, and it corresponded with when they saw this white Elantra driving, and he has a white Elantra and everything. So all of that, they don't have to prove to the judge that he's guilty. They just have to prove that there's probable cause. Maybe he's guilty, like a big maybe, that he's guilty. What do you think? The judge should sign the search warrant? Yeah, look at these guys. They're becoming Zeke. Yeah, you agree? Yeah, look at these. What do you need Joe Samo for, huh? Yes, the judge did sign the search warrant. And the search warrant, okay, so this is the constitutional protections here. The search warrant isn't go check him out. No, it has to be very detailed. For example, it states that this is a search warrant that was signed. You are commanded to, search within 10 days the following address. Seize, you're allowed to seize any like blood or human tissue or skin cells that are kind of left around, like if there's hair or if there's, a blood stain somewhere or whatever. You're allowed to seize knives, sheaths, other sharp tools, including any dagger, dirk, or sword. What's a dirk? I gotta look that up. Okay. All right. So any images, whether digital or paper or any other format. So any photos and stuff they could get. And clothing, so obviously that would be important. Clothing. So what I'm trying to say here is that this search warrant is extremely narrow, and it states like what the address. So this one was the address in Washington. So his apartment in Washington. They had one that in the parents' house in Pennsylvania, and one for the car. So it's very narrow and detailed in terms of what they're allowed to search. And this is, let me then explain what they found. All right. This is what they found. One nitrite black glove, a Walmart receipt with one Dickies tag. I don't know, 2 Marshall's receipts, a dust container. I don't know, a dust container maybe from a vacuum. They found 8 possible hair strands. 1 Fire TV stick with cord and plug. Do you use the Fire stick for the TV? Now, why they would want that is because you could store pictures there and stuff and whatever, right? 1 possible animal hair strain. 1 possible hair. Okay, so they have to list every single thing they found. They got a computer tower. 1 collection of red spot. 2 cutting. They got his pillow. 2 top and bottom of mattress covered package with multiple stains. I wonder what the stains are in this mattress. I don't know, but it could be blood, semen. It could be, saliva, whatever. More kind of identification things. And then the receipt for what they found in his car, in this Elantra. Swabs, Ziploc bag with a pink zipper. 7 plastic baggies with a green zipper, 36 dimes, 32 nickels, 8 pennies. Oh, you still keep change in the car? You do Zeke, do you do that? You keep change in the car? I used to do that, but the problem is as I'm driving, it keeps like I hate that noise. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, okay. So we know what he kept in the car. Gloves, receipt. They just have to, put down everything that they took. Car insurance, his insurance registration, hiking boots, water bottles. There wasn't seatbelt visor. There wasn't anything that I saw here that was particularly, damning evidence. Okay, so then they had then enough. When they presented all of that then to the judge, they got an arrest warrant, and they were allowed to arrest him. And then he was arrested in Pennsylvania. But where did the murders happen? In Idaho. Okay, so they have to extradite him from Pennsylvania to Idaho. It's always allowed to extradite. Like, it's no point in fighting an extradition from one state to another. All you're going to do is piss off the judge and waste time. So he didn't even fight that. So they fly him back to Idaho from Pennsylvania, and then they charge him with murder. I did state in other podcasts, there is the Eighth Amendment where you're allowed to have bail, and there should be no excessive bail. He was not allowed to be bailed out. No bail. There is Supreme Court precedent that says it is not unconstitutional to have no bail for an alleged murder, and especially if there's good evidence out there of an alleged murder. You're allowed to you're allowed to say no bail. If it's something like somebody is vandalizing cars or something, or whatever, that one is, there has to be some bail. It can't be too excessive. So now in the sense of what's going to happen, okay, so he was charged, and there is a right to a speedy trial, all right, another Eighth Amendment, a right to a speedy trial. They have to try him like within a few months, and he was arrested in January. The reason why now where are we in, like September? The only reason he hasn't been tried yet is because he waived the right to a speedy trial, because his lawyer said, we better investigate this, dude. We need more time. You better waive that right to a speedy trial. He agreed. He waived that right to a speedy trial. And he also, one of the things he did correctly, or not, whatever, but he didn't talk to the police. He never told the police anything. Now, he doesn't have to. That's the Fifth Amendment. Everyone, I plead the Fifth. The Fifth Amendment says you do not have to self-incriminate yourself. You don't have to self-incriminate yourself, right? So he didn't do that. He did not self-incriminate himself. He chose not to talk. So he's allowed to do that. The prosecutor now, they're going to have to convince the judge that there's enough evidence to at least go to a trial. Then they're going to have to convince a jury. I don't know if they're going to win. Do you think, I got a couple people here, beyond a reasonable doubt, if you show his car was in the area driving around, there was his blood on this sheath to a knife, and that, shucks, what else did they have? Wait, I got to show you the picture of this guy. Do you remember what the roommate said he looks like? He's white, he's athletic, and he has bushy eyebrows. White, athletic build, bushy eyebrows, right? I think that's the big evidence, her saying that. So they have evidence from the roommate that says, his description, and it matches this guy's description. They have his car everywhere around the area. They have his blood on the knife sheath, and then that blood is 100% his. I mean, like I said, from all these things, they got his hair, they got this, they got that. So they ended up testing everything, and there is no doubt that was his blood on that sheath, and and I think that's all the evidence they have, right? Based on that, what do you guys think? Would you say he's guilty? Oh, they're saying yeah. I think the big one is the roommate's testimony. That one is gonna. Actually everything else. Okay, what's it? Time for dad jokes? I have a special request from someone. I'll call him to see if he wants to say. He's like, I want to say a dad joke here. Let's call him, and let's see if he answers. He probably won't answer. I think he blocked me. Won't be the first time.
Hello?
Hey, Mazen, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
All right, can you hear him on the? All right, are you are on speaker at the podcast? Do you want to say the dad joke?
Yeah, sure.
All right, tell us, Mazen. Hit us.
Today I was fired from the bank. The lady asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
All right. That was a good one, man. Anything else?
Sure, one more.
One more. Hit us.
How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep?
How?
You rock it.
Oh, this one. Okay, hold on. This one, you asked me this one time, right? And I said you give it space. That would have been a good answer, right? Because a baby astronaut. All right, I got one for you. How do you hire a horse?
How?
You just put it up on a ladder. I don't know. Was that funny? This guy thought it was funny. I didn't think it was that funny. Okay.
That's a good one.
Was it really? Okay.
I liked it.
Did you hear about the teenager who failed his driving test? He thought it was a crash course.
You're on a roll, buddy.
I'm on a roll. Yes. What has a spine but no bones? A book. Thank you, Mazen. This will be, and if anyone else ever wants to say any jokes, you give me a special request and I'll put you on. All right, thanks, brother.
You're welcome. Bye.
See you next week.